fatigue that you mentioned, he's probably very reluctant to get us into war number 4. And so I think he's maybe wondering what to do. But I think the real model for him ought to be President Reagan in 1981 in Poland, basically helping the regime, or the dissidents to battle the regime. But
yeah, but you got a lot of dissidents and a lot of regimes to help out. I guess that's a concern. Francis Newton, I guess come Monday in trading, the question is going to be, do gas prices continue running up? I think it was the 30th straight day they did. The oil market's largely quiet, but they have been running up 23, 24% this year. Is that a continuing trend?
Oh, Neil, no, I think we're headed for hard times. I'll tell you what, the Dow Jones has about 1,250 points left to run. 13,750 is our top. I tell you what, these markets are not going to sell off because of, and then what? We're going to see a sell-off. These markets are not going to sell off because of fear in Syria. These markets are going to sell off because we have fundamentally weak economy in this country. They are technically overdue for a sell-off. And our long-term causality of outsourcing our manufacturing is coming home to roost. We have to remember that the strength in corporate balance sheets and the strength that we're seeing in the equity markets right now is simply due to stimulus. It's not due to production. And the policymakers are arguing about the depth of the ocean while the ship is sinking. We are in lots of trouble, and we're going to see some serious weakness in the equities that have very little to do with the Middle East.
Adam, a lot of the earnings that we have gotten today, the oil situation notwithstanding, or maybe this is part of the same question, they've been coming out as a result of the weak dollar. So a lot of these multinationals reporting good numbers, you know, Intel and IBM, they've been benefiting from that. The same weak dollar that's been making oil prohibitively more expensive. How long can you keep a bull market going with that?
Well, not long. I would agree with Francis that there are some significant things that can go wrong with this economy. I would point out, by the way, however, Neil, if in the near term the price of oil and the price of gasoline keep rising, and if she's right that our economy loses steam, eventually the price of oil is going to plummet because the demand from the United States and from Europe won't be there. So
yeah, but what is the trigger for that, Adam? I've always wondered, like, is it obviously isn't $4 gas because a lot of parts of the country we have that. What would be the trigger?
Well, it could be the trigger right now, and we just don't see it. I don't necessarily think that. I think there are more legs to the U.S. economy. I think there are good things going on in the U.S. economy. But it could be, Neil, that if I'm wrong, and if people are pulling back as a result of this onerous $4 plus gallon gasoline right now, it could be happening without us even knowing it. Remember, the earnings that we've been looking at are looking backwards, not forwards.
Well, you're right. You know, James, we have cleansed this
Neil,
more
I'll
worry.
tell you what will trigger the oil dropping. I'll tell you what it is. It's a liquidity crisis. Oil is a major bellwether for liquidity because the demand reaches so far. Everybody puts gas in their cars. I tell you, if they cut the spending or they don't do quantitative easing 3 and we see a liquidity crisis, we may very well have the desire, but the demand is a physical transaction. If there's not enough money in circulation, we will see a plummet in oil prices. I agree with Adam there.
Well, what do you think of that?
I don't understand how you could think we're going to have a liquidity crisis. I mean, Ben Bernanke has done everything he can to flood the world with dollars. And
well, she's saying unless you have a QE3 or whatever.
I'm saying.
You know, then they would be disappointed.
We can only hope there's no QE3
right,
for the sake of the economy and job growth. But I think that's the point.
But that's what it seems to take to keep this puppy going.
Well, I think you could use some positive signals from Washington, but that's the last one we need. The Fed has done its job. We've got lots of liquidity. We've got these healthy companies with a lot of cash. What we need from Washington is the signal that people are going to be able to make profitable investments. And part of that is deficits and debt coming down, because that tells people we're not going to tax you in the future and we're not going to inflate in the future to pay these bills.
Well, very quickly then, Francis, you seem to be saying you're not hopeful on that Washington progress front.
No, I look at history, and history repeats itself. They cut spending in 1937. After the markets were up for 5 years, they cut spending by 18%, and they turned it into a W. And the reason is, Neil, is that if we cut spending, we are the largest consumer. And if we cut spending, we will not have a new credit card to pay off the old deficit. You cannot severely cut spending, or we will see a liquidity crisis. It's just a mathematical certainty.
All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, now it's New Hampshire. Unions in an uproar. Democratic governor outnumbered, and a labor crackdown about to hit the books. When live free or die becomes more than just a state motto, it becomes state law.
How low will we go? What is the